We live in a world full of dangers. There are wild animals, natural disasters, and of course your run-of-the-mill psychopaths. In this world, the police are here to protect you, but what if they can't? What if those officers, sworn to serve and protect, fail, and in the process become casualties in an assault on your life? And what if that assault drives you insane? Saludos, everyone, and thank you for joining us as we look into the 1984 Sarah Connor Murders. This story begins on Sunday, May 13th, 1984, in Los Angeles, California, where the clerk at the local Alamo Sports Shop was shot in cold blood during a robbery. Police believe the suspect was looking over one of the shop's weapons when he loaded it and shot the clerk point blank. The suspect, who witnesses would later describe as being a large European-sounding man with brown hair, stole a variety of guns from the shop, which he would use to go on a killing spree the state has yet to see again. Several hours later, Sarah Connor of 1823 Doncaster Street would respond to a knock at the door by this same suspect. While she kept her chain lock secured, the suspect kicked down the door of her home and shot the woman a total of 6 times, killing her. As police, led by detectives Traxler and Volkovich, investigated the brutal and seemingly unprovoked attack, it was determined that Sarah Connor of Doncaster Street was initially shot once in the head and 5 more times by her attacker as she lay on the floor of her home. Later that same day, Sarah Ann Connor of 2816 East Hill Lane was at home with her children when she also received a knock at her door, where she too was gunned down. While there are fewer details on Sarah Ann Connor's shooting, it is strongly believed that it was by the same killer. Detectives Traxler and Volkovich immediately noticed the names of the victims were nearly identical and discovered the two were targeted sequentially via the phone book. The police searched for who they believe would be the third victim, Sarah J. Connor, but interestingly, didn't send police to her home until after this third Sarah Connor called them. Fearing for her roommate's safety, Sarah J. Connor called the police from a local club, Tech Noir, where she believed she was being targeted as well. A belief she soon would learn was not unfounded. Her roommate and her roommate's boyfriend were found dead in their rented home on Cedar Canyon Road, appearing to have put up a struggle. Interestingly, Connor's roommate was also shot 6 times, once in the back as she tried to flee, and 5 more times as she lay on the floor, eerily similar to Sarah Connor of Doncaster Street. The boyfriend was found beaten to death in the bedroom doorway. It appears the couple were killed shortly after Sarah left their home, as a message on their answering machine left by Sarah herself was discovered.
Ginger, this is Sarah. Pick up if you're there. I'm at this place on Pico Boulevard called Tech Noir. I'm really scared.
This message had not been listened to when police discovered the scene. It is believed the suspect was at Connor's home at the time of the recording, because he soon located Sarah at the Tech Noir Club, breaking a bouncer's hand to gain entry to the club. While attempting to kill Sarah Connor on the dance floor, the subject was instead shot by another man, who we will get to shortly. The gunfight that ensued between Sarah Connor's savior and the suspect would leave 2 of the club patrons dead. Witnesses at the club also claimed the suspect was shot anywhere between 4 to 8 times. Police shortly arrived at the Tech Noir Club as they had been responding to Sarah Connor's earlier phone call, only to discover that Sarah had been kidnapped. After a brief chase, Sarah Connor and her kidnapper would be taken into police custody, and this is where things get truly strange. Sarah's kidnapper was the same person who saved her from the suspect at the Tech Noir Club. Known only as Kyle Reese, the man claimed to have been sent from the future, and that the suspect, whom he called a Terminator, was a machine also sent back in time to kill Sarah, or more specifically, her unborn son. Dr. Peter Silberman, the criminal psychologist at the station, got to sit down with Reese and believes that the man was a paranoid schizophrenic who suffered from schizophrenic delusions. But this has never been confirmed.
The time displacement equipment?
That's right. The Terminator had already gone through. Connor sent me to intercept, and they blew the whole place.
Oh, how are you supposed to get back?
I can't. Nobody goes home. Nobody else comes through. It's just him and me.
Police later realized that Reese, the day before, had been seen stealing a homeless man's coat and getting into an altercation with a police officer, stealing several guns after assaulting said officer. Only hours after Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese were taken to the station, the suspect, who we will now call the Terminator, a name given to him by the media, arrived at the station looking for Miss Connor. Not realizing the serial killer was in front of him, the officer at the desk requested the Terminator wait. He did not. The Terminator left the station, only to return moments later by driving a vehicle through the front door and desk, killing the officer in the process. The Terminator then proceeded to storm the station with an automatic weapon and a shotgun, killing 11 officers and wounding many others. Detective Vukovic was among those killed, Traxler among the injured. During the assault, Kyle Reese managed to break out of his interrogation room, and it is believed he again kidnapped Sarah Connor. The details that come next are sketchy, to say the least. A motel clerk just outside Los Angeles claims he saw a couple matching Kyle and Sarah's description the morning after the police station attack, but this is unconfirmed as the couple paid in cash. What is known is that, following a car crash during the evening of Monday, May 14th, 1984, a man fitting Kyle Reese's description was found dead in a nearby factory due to explosive trauma. Police later learned that Sarah J. Connor's mother was also murdered that same day, but more details on her murder have yet to be released. After numerous attempts on her life, it appears Sarah Connor effectively cracked. Most likely pushed by Kyle Reese, she begun to suffer the same delusions, trying to warn the world about Judgment Day, the day the machines would launch a war on humanity. Sometime after the birth of her son in 1985, Sarah would be admitted to the Pescadero State Hospital for the Criminally Insane under the care of Dr. Peter Silberman. Normally, this is where a story like this would end. The Terminator's never seen again, just another mystery in the ether. But things only get stranger from here. Sometime in 1985, over a decade after his last sighting, the Terminator was seen on CCTV footage at a Los Angeles mall, where a mall employee was found dead. Later that same night, the Terminator and Sarah's son, John Connor, assaulted workers at the Pescadero State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, in one instance shooting a gate guard in the kneecap, in a coordinated attempt to break Sarah Connor out of the hospital, a detail confirmed by Dr. Silberman. The next morning, it was also discovered that John's foster parents, Janelle and Todd Voigt, were murdered with an unknown bladed object, as was a security guard at the aforementioned hospital. While it is not believed the Terminator nor Sarah Connor committed these murders, their connection cannot be ignored. The trio later broke into the home of Cyberdyne systems developer Dr. Miles Bennett Dyson. After police tracked the group down to Cyberdyne Systems headquarters, Miles Dyson was killed in an explosion set by the Connors and the Terminator that destroyed the building. Luckily, no police officers were killed, although many were injured. After escaping, the trio are believed to have stolen a pickup truck, as well as crashed a semi-truck containing liquid nitrogen into another factory. the Terminator, Sarah Connor, and her son John Connor, who was only 10 years old in 1995, have never been seen since, but are believed to be alive, armed, and dangerous. There are many theories surrounding the Sarah Connor murders and Sarah Connor's subsequent rampage years later. Some online sleuths have suggested the killer, the Terminator, was on PCP or another drug at the time and wearing body armor, which would have allowed him to withstand or simply not feel the bullet wounds witnesses claimed the man received. Some detectives also associate the Terminator killings with the deaths of several youths on Saturday, May 12, 1984, where a group of young adults were found dead, with some articles of clothing missing, clothing that some witnesses believe they saw the Terminator wearing during his 1984 rampage. There is also speculation regarding the father of John Connor. Some believe that Kyle Reese, Sarah's original kidnapper, fathered the boy. Others claim it was the Terminator himself, which to some is the only logical reason the man would go from attempting to kill Sarah Connor to saving her years later with her son John. We also cannot rule out the outlandish possibility that Kyle and Sarah's stories are entirely true. While in the hospital, Sarah would claim that she destroyed the Terminator, and if Kyle and the Terminator really were from the future, another could have been sent back to 1995, making the 1995 Terminator a completely different machine. Now, this theory is backed up by people who can only be described as zealots, who searched for any record of Kyle Reese only to find none, suggesting this lack of evidence must mean this man was from the future and not just using an assumed name. As of today, the Terminator and Sarah Connor are associated with the deaths of at least 26 individuals, as well as countless injuries to others. If you know any information regarding the whereabouts of the Terminator, Sarah Connor, or John Connor, please call the LA police at the number below.